Join me as I dive deep into the shocking downfall of Enron and see if I can uncover valuable lessons that we can apply today. Enron was a corporation that dominated the energy industry in the late 1990s and early 2000s. At its peak, Enron was ranked as the seventh largest company in the United States, with a market value of over $70 billion. But behind the scenes, Enron was hiding a web of deceit and corruption that would eventually lead to its downfall. Enron's rapid rise to success was nothing short of phenomenal. The company was founded in 1985, and by the early 2000s, it had become a global energy powerhouse. But this rapid growth was fueled by reckless ambition and a lack of accountability, which ultimately led to disastrous consequences. Enron's leadership, particularly CEO Jeffrey Skilling and CFO Andrew Fastow, were hailed as visionaries and innovators in the business world. However, beneath the surface, they were masterminding a scheme that would eventually bring the company to its knees. In the next section, we'll dive deeper into the central issues that led to Enron's downfall, including corporate greed, unethical practices, and lack of transparency. The Enron scandal was not just a case of corporate malfeasance. It was a textbook example of how greed and corruption can destroy even the most successful companies. At the heart of Enron's problems was a culture of reckless ambition and a complete disregard for ethical standards. The company's leadership was obsessed with profits and growth, and they were willing to do whatever it took to achieve their goals. This included hiding debts, manipulating financial reports, and using complex accounting tricks to make the company appear more successful than it really was. Enron's auditors, Arthur Andersen, were complicit in the company's accounting fraud. They turned a blind eye to Enron's questionable accounting practices and even helped to shred documents that could have exposed the company's wrongdoing. The lack of transparency at Enron was staggering. The company's financial reports were intentionally confusing and misleading, making it impossible for investors to get an accurate picture of the company's financial health. Enron's leaders were masters of manipulation, using their charm and charisma to convince investors and analysts that the company was a sound investment. But behind the scenes, they were cooking the books and hiding the truth from the public. The company's corporate culture was toxic, with employees who dared to question the company's practices being silenced or fired. Enron's leadership was convinced that they were above the law and that they could get away with anything. Enron's problems were not just limited to its accounting practices. The company was also involved in a range of unethical business practices, including bribery, fraud, and price manipulation. In California, Enron was accused of manipulating energy prices, causing widespread blackouts and costing the state billions of dollars. The company's actions were so egregious that they were eventually forced to pay a $1.5 billion settlement to the state of California. The impact of Enron's actions on its employees was devastating. Thousands of people lost their jobs and their life savings when the company went bankrupt. Many employees had invested their retirement funds in Enron stock, which became worthless overnight. Enron's shareholders also suffered huge losses, with many people losing their entire life savings. The company's collapse was so catastrophic that it led to a complete overhaul of the accounting industry and the passage of new laws to prevent similar scandals in the future. In the next section, we'll explore the details of Enron's business practices, the role of key figures, and the impact of their actions on employees and shareholders. Enron's business model was based on a complex web of partnerships and special-purpose entities. These entities were used to hide debts and obscure the company's financial affairs. The company's energy trading business was particularly problematic, with Enron using complex derivatives and hedging strategies to manipulate energy prices. The company's traders were incentivized to take huge risks, which ultimately led to massive losses. CEO Jeffrey Skilling was the mastermind behind Enron's business model. He was a charismatic leader who convinced employees and investors that his vision for the company was the key to success. However, beneath the surface, Skilling was hiding a web of deceit and corruption. CFO Andrew Fastow was another key figure in the Enron scandal. He was the architect of the company's complex financial structures and was responsible for hiding the company's debts. Fastow's role in the scandal was particularly egregious, as he used his position to enrich himself and his friends. He set up a range of partnerships and special purpose entities that were used to siphon money out of Enron and into his own pocket. Enron's board of directors was also complicit in the company's wrongdoing. They failed to provide adequate oversight and allowed the company's leadership to run amok. The company's collapse was a slow-motion train wreck. Enron's stock price had been falling for months, but the company's leadership continued to reassure investors that everything was fine. In August 2001, Enron CEO Jeffrey Skilling suddenly resigned, citing personal reasons. This was the first sign that something was seriously wrong at the company. In October 2001, Enron announced that it was restating its earnings, wiping out $1.2 billion in profits. This was a devastating blow to investors, who had been assured that the company was financially sound. As the weeks went by, Enron's financial situation continued to deteriorate. The company's credit rating was downgraded, and it was unable to access new capital. On December 2, 2001, Enron filed for bankruptcy, becoming one of the largest bankruptcies in history. The company's collapse sent shockwaves around the world, causing widespread panic and uncertainty. The public's reaction to Enron's collapse was one of outrage and disbelief. How could a company that was once so highly respected and admired fall so far, so fast? In the aftermath of Enron's collapse, there were numerous investigations and lawsuits. Top executives, including Jeffrey Skilling and Andrew Fastow, were charged with fraud and other crimes. Skilling was eventually convicted and sentenced to 24 years in prison, while Fastow received a 6-year sentence. Other executives were also charged and convicted of various crimes. The Enron scandal led to a complete overhaul of the accounting industry and the passage of new laws to prevent similar scandals in the future. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act was passed in 2002, which introduced new regulations and oversight mechanisms to prevent corporate fraud. So what can we learn from Enron's shocking downfall? First and foremost, we learn the importance of ethics in business. Enron's leaders were so obsessed with profits and growth that they lost sight of what was important. We also learn the importance of transparency and accountability. Enron's lack of transparency and accountability led to its downfall, and it's a lesson that we can all learn from. Finally, we learned that even the most successful companies can fall victim to corruption and greed. Enron's collapse is a reminder that we must always be vigilant and hold our leaders to account. Thanks for watching, and if you have any thoughts on corporate ethics or the Enron scandal, please share them in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos on business and finance.